But that leads me to my first question because there's a lot of areas to start. I think your Substack, Minocqua Brewing Company Times, is a great place to start because you're creating a platform for independent and progressive writers, as well as the weekly live broadcast Up North podcast. Unpack for me, how does a brewing company get to being a player in the independent progressive news space?
Yeah, it's really big. So I well, it all started when Mark Zuckerberg started uh, throttling my Facebook page.
Hmm.
Um, it so the Monaco Brewing Company. We're very politically progressive. We are active in politics in Wisconsin. I put beer out on grocery store shelves that are like mini billboards to try to get people who aren't just listening to progressive talk radio, who might be, right leaning, like in their liquor stores, to kind of see the messages that I'm making. The There's a lot of conservatives who drink beer. So that's where I was, and I write a lot of on Sundays in particular on my Facebook page. I started writing like an essay every Sunday that kind of took a lay of the land of what Wisconsin needed to do to stay blue and protect our democracy. And so I started doing that, and it got a lot of views. And lo and behold, in the month before the Harris Waltz, the election, the presidential election, I went from getting 30 to 60,000 views from almost everything I posted to like 500 views. And so, and again, and like 50 likes as opposed to like normal, like the 2,000 to 4,000 likes. So I'm like, something's happening here, and it's not good. And I've heard from other progressive organizations that they were throttled as well. Potentially conservative organizations were throttled. I'm not sure, but we couldn't be as politically active as we wanted to be because my main megaphone had been largely turned off. So the other way that I reach people is every time you buy, and I've been boycotted, by, the Minnesota distributors, the Wisconsin distributors, and the Illinois distributors because I'm so politically out with my messaging. I've largely turned to selling other stuff as well, like T-shirts. So every time you buy a T-shirt from me, or coffee, we have Woke Coffee. It's pretty light. It ships really easily. The shipping isn't too hard. So every time you buy that stuff from me, I get your email address. So I've collected about 300,000 email addresses over the past 5 years. And so my email list was steadily growing. So when Facebook was taken away from me, I resorted to, I was like, okay, well, all I've got are these emails, and I was paying $30,000 a month to MailChimp just to be able to speak with my audience, or not a month, sorry, a year, $30,000 a year just to be able to send emails out to 300,000 people who bought T-shirts from me. I get it, you got to pay for a service, but that's a lot. And we discovered that if I just uploaded all those emails to Facebook or to Substack, it's free. It's so we uploaded and that's where all the progressive conversation is currently happening. I mean, you've got Jim Acosta, who left CNN or was fired from CNN, who's now a top guy on Substack. We've been listening to Heather Cox Richardson for years, and she's the one who, I didn't know Substack existed until I started reading hers. And then you got the Midas Network, and and these guys they beat Joe Rogan, and their podcast beat Joe Rogan, and they're largely platforming off of Substack. So I was like, okay, well, that's where the conversation's going. Let's move our email list to Substack. And by the way, like, I can't sell my stuff anymore, so let's get some of the smartest people I know to write when I'm not writing, so that nobody wants to hear from me 5 times a week, but I still got to sell my stuff 5 times a week through some channels. So let's pay really smart people to talk about politics, and talk about democracy in the Midwest. It's Midwest centric, but let's pay them, and then let's have Kirk do a little yo, by the way, can you buy some coffee after you read this really smart article,
Right.
and that, by the way, that's not new. Like the New York Times didn't start off being the New York Times. It started off being a circular for a grocery store somewhere in Manhattan.
Right.
Like they needed to sell, some turnips. And so, they were like, well, how do we best sell these turnips? Well, let's actually have somebody who's smart write an article, next to this little circular that we hand out so that we can sell turnips. So, this is not new, but it's kind of going past. It's kind of going back to a long time in the past when media is now largely dying, and so you got to fund it somehow. And so I'm funding it through product sales, and so we've made number 5. Weirdly, I have no idea why. I know why. It's because the algorithm measures subscribers, and we're just throwing emails at them. But we were number 5 out of in America on U.S. Substack political pages just last week.
Wow.
Tom Hartman agreed to be on our podcast because we beat him a few times on Substack. And Tom Hartman's a legend. I wouldn't, he speaks to me so well. He's obviously way better at this than we are, but because of the algorithm, because our email reach, and because we sell stuff and get email addresses, we're in the mix now. And I don't want to fail people. If we're gonna be read a lot, I want to actually move the needle. And so that's why I'm trying to find the smartest people I can to write every day for me.
We're talking with Kirk Bangstad, founder of Minocqua Brewing Company, a progressive beer company that also runs a fantastic Substack we're talking about right now, Progressive Writers, and every week broadcasts a live episode of the Up North podcast from the Minocqua Brewing Company tap room. I really appreciate the Midwest focus, particularly the Wisconsin focus, because Wisconsin, Jim is a resident. We spend half our weeks there in Northwest Wisconsin by Barron, Luck, Spooner, that area, and swingiest of swing states. I still don't understand how Wisconsin has Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson as your senators. There's no ideological unity in those selections there. Talk to us. I've got just about 2 minutes left before we hit the break, and I want to continue after we hit the break. But tell us where you feel Wisconsin is at and the direction it is going, particularly because you all got new maps for your legislature.
Yeah, the reason we have Tammy Baldwin and we have Ron Johnson is because A, they're both white, unfortunately, but B, we vote for incumbents because we're not really adventurous people, and we're also very trusting people. So when we see ads, we believe them, even though those ads can be completely skewed. And so we're able to be manipulated because we're trusting and good. And we're also, the reason Mandela Barnes didn't beat Ron Johnson simply is because they painted him as a black thug in the last election. And there's 95% of us are white, and too many of us are scared of urban Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And
Well
the maps, though, seem to be going to fix that. Do you feel in 2026? Already there was some progress made last year in 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, leave it to Democrats to shoot themselves in the foot, when it really matters, or to claim defeat out of the jaws of victory like they did 2 weeks ago. But yes, if we do everything right, we should be able to get the majority back, or at least, I think, unseat Robin Vos. So I think we have a better chance in the assembly. And if we got rid of him, oh my God, Wisconsin would change for the better.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to take a break. We're going to have more with Kirk Bangstad, founder of Minocqua Brewing Company, when we come back. If you like what we're doing here, we have been diving into progressive and democratic socialist politics with Wisconsin State Assemblyman Christian Phelps, Madison City Councilwoman Nina Martinez Rutherford. I can't get over saying her name. I absolutely love that. And on the other side of the river, we've been talking with LGBTQ Minnesota State House Reps Lee Finke and Liz Ryer. You can watch all of this on our YouTube channel. You can keep the conversation going. We've been venturing into blue sky, seeing what the territory is like over there. We are at thegailyshow.org on Blue Sky. You are listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk. More after the break.